Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRY. AFRY is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. I have the pleasure to welcome you, Moa, to Urbanistica podcast. Hey, and welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
Great.
Good to see you.
You too. Been a while now.
Yeah. So how is it going? I see Helsingborg. It's shining. It's H22.
Yeah, it's crazy busy. And just today I've had a guided tour and an inauguration.
But I see like it's a kind of a big festival in all the city.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's in such a big area.
Yeah.
So it's not crowded, you know?
True.
It's still a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
But not crowded, which
That's
is
true.
weird.
And again, I know you're like super busy with H22, with all the activities. So I'm very happy that you're here and giving your time to record the podcast.
Thank you. And to the listeners, it's 9 p.m. in the evening. So this is how we made it work.
Exactly. So let's start with you. You are our storyteller. How would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your passion?
Well, passion about my work, you mean?
Passion in life.
Passion in life. Oh, no, that's too vast. Too many passions. But myself, I studied urban design and city planning in Stavanger, in Norway. And I worked so much while I was studying, so I did it for 6 years. It took me 6 years to finish my degree because I got too busy earning money. At the same time, I worked as a plan architect, regulation
Planner.
Yeah. And then I started to work as an urban designer 1 year before I finished and graduated. So I almost worked for 3 years as an urban designer with placemaking in Stavanger. And then I moved back to Helsingborg, and I've been working here for 6 years now at the urban planning department.
Awesome. So tell us more about like where you're from, where you grew up, your childhood.
Well, I grew up here in Helsingborg, and so did you.
Yes.
But I think you lived in Söder, or
yeah.
And I grew up in Västra Berga and Ramlösa. Maybe people have heard of Ramlösa, the sparkling water. I grew up not so far from the spring.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Helsingborg most of my childhood, but I started in the country. My parents were one of the last few of the green wave in the 80s, so they wanted to live in the country with diapers that you had to wash and homegrown baby food, which turned out to be very exhausting. So my mother moved back with us, me and my brother, to Helsingborg.
Yeah.
And she herself started her adult life here in Helsingborg. So this is where she decided to move back.
Yeah. So you told me you have I asked you about your passion.
Yeah.
So you told me like a private or a work. So tell me about your passion.
For work, I guess my passion is to work with people more, less planning and more in action with people, and get people involved and strengthen communities. And privately, it's crazy a lot. I just realized that I am some kind of collector of skills. I like to know a little bit of every skill there is, especially working with my hands. That's how I relax when I come home. I like to, or maybe refurbish a piece of furniture, or work in the garden, or read something or something.
So using
like
your
that.
hand.
Yeah,
Getting your hand dirty.
Yeah, but also using my
Of course. Yeah.
It depends on what I'm in the mood for.
Yeah. So what is the last thing you did with your hands? Like, did you build something? Did you paint or?
I painted my bathroom yesterday evening.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I just bought a really big house for myself. I have 12 rooms now. It's an 100-year-old school in this crazy brick national romantic style. It's 100 years old. And I have 12 rooms and just me so far.
I saw it on Instagram. I was like, what is Moa going to do? Like a hotel or open?
I do have some plans. I want to make myself my own extended family, and I travel a lot, and I want to be able to host people. And I created a profile on workaway.info, and I already have I've been there for a week now, and already have 2 groups that want to come and stay with me for weeks.
That's awesome.
And help me out with my projects. And for having a school with an old school and a new house with a leaky roof, do you know what the first thing I did when I moved in there?
Tell me.
I got 13 chickens. That's not how you start.
That's interesting story.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm happy to do the podcast with you, and we're going to publish it hopefully tomorrow. And it's about placemaking.
Yeah.
And the partnership between Helsingborg City and Placemaking Europe, and also the 2 days that's going to be in Helsingborg to host placemaking leaders. And tell me more about the coming 2 days, like the placemaking days in Helsingborg.
Yeah, I'm very excited. There are so many things happening here during H22 that you can hardly find us in the program. But and at the same time, we have this amazing 2-day event with speakers from Europe and the world. And we are going to have different themes. For example, safety in play and activities, physical activities. And another theme with the creative bureaucracy. So we are dividing them into half days, I would say.
Who can be part of these days? Is it only targeting specific group or?
No, everybody are welcome. And the first day, if you don't want to pay, you can come only to the first day. The second day, you pay around 75 euros because that includes dinner in the evening and also lunch. And the first day starts around after lunch. So then you get an awesome day and also coffee and cake for free.
Awesome. So what is the goal of these 2 days?
Well, the goal is 2 ways. For us in the city and my colleagues to get inspiration from the network, but also to get more, to get the people, the placemakers from the network to get together and to learn from each other and grow as a group.
So both as an inspiration for Helsingborg City, and also as a gathering moment for the placemakers.
Yeah, and of course everybody else that come.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're gonna see you, right?
Yeah, I will be there all the time. And we will also do a couple of guided tours. For example, remember when I told you about the equality project? So that has moved on into a huge equity and social justice in public spaces. And we have created a certification for how you do this and tested it on one site in one of the sites for H22. So we're going to do a guided tour and tell people more about that. And another one will be about placemaking in Söder, where we have done actually tons of projects, from mini art to street art festival that we have done for 4 years in the area, to the placemaking project in the park, where we have done events for 3 years now, and but also just a bunch of different projects in the whole area that I can talk.
These 2 days is happening during the H22. So can you give us just a highlight about H22 for listeners? Maybe they want to attend the placemaking days, but also stay to see Helsingborg.
There are so many awesome things that I wish to attend, but I think the most extraordinary part is that for many years, I think 3 or 4 years, every department of Helsingborg have had extra money to promote every employee's idea and give them opportunity to pitch their idea about innovation, how to improve their workplaces assignments. And for example, the social department or the school department, how can we improve our responsibilities, what we are supposed to do here? And then you could get money for your idea and also some support to work innovative with this.
Yeah.
And all of these things we are showcasing during H22. And that's what I think is the most extraordinary thing. But then the H22 administration have partnered up with some amazing partners and sponsors that are part. For example, IKEA, who have decided to create their own company within IKEA to work with cities to try to cope with challenges and see how can we evolve IKEA through this, for example. And they are doing this amazing progress, just like they did during H99 when they introduced their new housing projects.
Yeah.
Boklok.
Yes.
So that's one amazing things. But then they have both different events, different areas where we have worked in new ways, and there's interesting things to see everywhere, and everything is happening at the same time. And
no, it's interesting because I heard the expo is happening. It's open like from the 31st of May. It's going to continue to the 3rd of July, and during this amount of days, there are more than, I think, 1,000 activities happening, from like a seminar to like a walk and talk.
Yeah, like 60 and 80 conferences.
Yeah, it's like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
So it's cool that we manage as a placemakers to have also 2 days within this expo.
Yeah. And that's also why I made it easy to be able to buy just a ticket for one of the days, because I understand not many can do both of the days. True. But it's easy to squeeze in one of the days, maybe.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy about this, and I'm looking forward to attend the 2 days, and hopefully see many of the listeners there as well.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. We've been planning for this event and all of H22 for such a long time that it's so nice to finally see it happen.
Is there something like particular that you're looking forward to within these 2 days?
Yeah, especially to meet everybody from the network and build relationships, because we haven't done that a lot the past 3 years, right? I think I've also heard that many people are excited to come here and actually meet people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we're gonna be so socially
extra social.
Yeah.
No, it's also like I'm very excited as well, because since I joined the network or the organization, like then it was COVID, I didn't meet anyone, only Ramon and you. So I'm very excited to see all the faces that I see on the Facebook group, on the podcast, and,
Right. So this is the first physical integration for you.
Exactly, because I did the podcast with the boards, with the leaders. I follow them on the social media. I read the handbooks, everything. And
so you can finally meet the people you've stalked for years. Good for you.
Yeah, so I'm happy. So thank you so much, Moa and Placemaking Europe, for making this happen. So let's start from the beginning of the story. Like, what was the background of the partnership?
I think there are a few ways how we ended up where we are. Firstly, I work with the safety in public spaces. And when I did the action plan with the budget that goes with it, I said this is how we should work. And I included placemaking as an important method to work with safety in public spaces for us. And the politicians at the Urban Planning Council, they agreed and they approved this action plan. So that's one thing. The second thing is that our mayor and all of the heads of the different departments of Helsingborg, they went on a study trip and they learned more about placemaking. And he decided we should bring this to Helsingborg and gave the urban planning department that assignment. And thirdly, as a part of H22, other people in the municipality started to dabble with the Placemaking X, and they got in touch with them. And somehow I ended up in a meeting with Placemaking Europe. And I don't know exactly how that happened, but all of a sudden we decided we should be partners. I'm sure Placemaking Europe have a different version of this, but this is how I remember it. And then I had a place where we could start working with Placemaking Europe. And so we had the means and we had goals. So that's how it started.
Yeah. But why you decided, like in your action plan, why you put placemaking? You worked with it and then you be like, okay, this is a great method. Let me have it.
Yeah, I wanted to introduce placemaking to Helsingborg City. I had worked with it in my previous job in Stavanger, and I thought that would be a good way to work different with safety. I know in Sweden traditionally you work mostly with crime prevention and lightning and removing bushes and the driving forces are not usually the urban planning department.
And how you agree? Like, did you made a plan, or like, if you can tell me more about the details of the partnership?
Well, first of all, we don't have to making this decision was something that we could do on our own. We have the budget, and we have the possibility to make these kind of decisions. We don't have to go through our higher managers or bosses or anything. So once we had settled that, I think Placemaking Europe presented how they suggested we should move forward and work with Gustav Adolf Square, which was the site I wanted to work with.
Yeah. So what is the challenge that the site is facing?
It has a few challenges in the area where it is, and then the site is challenging too because there's traffic and traffic noise. There is a big parking space that takes a lot of space, and there are another problem is homeless people and people drinking and using drugs on the square. And in the evening, it really feels unsafe. There's mostly only men outside, and it's also a very segregated area. Another thing is also the market, which many people bring up as the most positive thing, and also many people bring it up as the most negative thing. So that's also a problem, and the market itself has many more detailed problems, like at the entrance there's a very smelly, a really disgusting smelly fish food truck, and there's also garbage that smells and also the toilet that smells, and that's the entrance, and it doesn't look like a nice entrance either. It's not clear how you enter. There's a and the tents are put in 2 rows, so there's 2 backsides turning into the rest of the square.
So as you mentioned, like the market, like people like it because, like they say, it's a livable square because we can buy food and so on. at the same time, the backside of it is like the garbage, the smells, and so on.
Yeah, and I also know that my colleagues who deals with the people that rent marketplaces, they have a lot of issues, and there have been a few conflicts,
Yeah.
and also an issue about there's not actually a suspicion that there's not many different vendors, but they all belong to the same company. They just pretend to be
Different.
Yeah. Another big issue is that a lot of young women actually experience sexual assault. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of men that sexual assault women and harass women.
Yeah. So like the square is divided like to parking, car parking, a market, and then an open space.
Yeah.
With some benches. So tell me, what was the plan? What was the plan with Placemaking Europe? Like what for this square?
When you do placemaking, you can't do it alone. So I wanted to use this organization to get more people involved into wanting to placemake in this area. That was my main goal, because I myself had already worked with placemaking, and I had also started a placemaking project in the park nearby.
Okay.
This was just an extension of that, but I wanted to bring the methodology,
the experts
into,
within.
yeah, exactly, and involve more people.
So what is the plan? Tell me, what is the idea to work with the square and transform it?
Well, I think since the site is so complex, we have to deal with one thing at a time, or start dealing with one thing at a time. I think the market turned out to be a very problematic place. So I decided to start in the easy part with the playground. And that's how we moved forward. And we wanted to both involve the kids in the playground decision making, but also create an identity with the playground. And this is how we solved it. We asked a few companies that make this kind of playground equipment and asked them to include the architectural identity, maybe the roofs or the facades or something, into the playground to maybe make a mini Söder in the playground. And then we told them that we want you to, well, besides the budget and the proposals and so on, we wanted them to include a sketch of how they wanted it to look like, that we wanted to show kids and let them decide which playground they like the best. And we asked 3 different companies. 2 of them met our requirements. So we showed kids during 2 days the different sketches, and one of them won. And that one is going to be built now in August, September, I think.
Awesome. And if you take me back in the beginning of the process, because you said, I want Placemaking Europe for the methodology and expertise. So how was like the different steps in the process? Like, did you make?
Well, we did a row of workshops. This was when the pandemic started, so we had to together start learning how to do it from a distance. For example, normally they would come and you would do a few days or a couple of days together. Now we decided to do a few hours here and there and on a distance. So Vivian, she was speaking to us from another country. And then I gathered the big group in front of the big TV and watched Vivian. And then we did different exercises to learn about the square, to analyze it and start moving forward. Another thing that we decided to work on very soon was also to create some kind of pop-up office. We bought a container that we're gonna use for events, but also to let other parts of the city to be more visible and accessible to the people. I think I also wanted to work with an external part, because then I knew there would be better progress than when I do something on my own, because then you have someone else also pushing And that's especially something that I think a lot more things are happening because I have them as a partner.
Yeah. If I understand the story correctly, so the partnership first is about the square, and the different steps in the process. First was a kind of let's say program for you working in the city about what is placemaking and how you can work with it.
Yeah.
And then you went more to analyze the square.
Yeah, and also they helped out when my colleagues, for example, had projects nearby, very close to the square. For example, one of my colleague Andrea, he was working with parklets that it's going to be in Södergatan, which is one of the adjacent streets to the square. So then Placemaking Europe helped him to do a few workshops. The Placemaking Europe actually made that process or the result a bit different than what we normally do.
Okay.
What's different here is that we have 3 organizations that are hosts, I suppose, for each parklet, and they are going to take care of the parklets instead of paying an entrepreneur to maintain the parklets. These organizations are going to get paid to have their members take care of it, and then they can use it and have information and try to get more members into the organization. At the same time, they get money for the organization, so they can do more work for the community.
So you feel, or you think that it's you got another perspective when you invited Placemaking Europe to Helsingborg to work together.
Yeah.
What is the next step in the process? Because I guess it's not done yet, the project or the partnership.
Well, I think now when we have the playground up and running, and then the container and the pop-up office up and running, I think I want to involve them in developing and improving the events and how we are moving forward with that. And then maybe in a year or so, I think I will be ready to start dealing with markets.
Do you feel that like your colleagues now are more familiar with the placemaking as a method, as a definition? I mean, before when Placemaking Europe came and did the introduction program, so you feel now it's easier to communicate with your colleagues about what is a placemaking and.
Yeah, and I think everybody are using placemaking and saying that they're working with placemaking in their projects now. So in a way, maybe not everybody knows exactly what placemaking is, but everybody seems to be very positive, and it has definitely grown as a methodology in the city. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, my manager, she encouraged me to have it in my individual development plan or my individual goal for the next year to work further and implement placemaking and introduce it to the whole city and our urban planning department. So that has been my personal goal for this year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So back to urban planning and city scale. I'm an urban planner, and you work also with the urban planning department. So from your perspective, what should urban planners stop doing when they plan cities?
Well, yeah, maybe stop overthinking things and start doing things more. More action, less talk.
Explain more.
I guess it's a frustration from my own work, how you get sucked into all of these theoretical and all of the meetings, and all you want to do is to do results, right? But yeah, it's been a thought I've had for some time that maybe we are overthinking everything as well. Does it really have to be this complicated to build a city? Why have we made it so complicated? Why don't we all already have the knowledge to understand what people want?
Like why we're complicating things, why we are making it so difficult for us?
Maybe because we are intellectual human beings and evolving the society. I mean, everything in our society becomes more complicated, from our cars to what we're wearing, how we educate the kids, and so on.
And what are the skills that urban planners should learn?
Well, I just found out that many people don't really learn about the social needs in public spaces and equality and these complicated social issues that affect the places where people that people are designing, which is to me the most important part.
Because you told me like you study the social aspect in the urban design, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so in my education we did more social studies in public spaces than I understand what most people do in architectural and landscape architectural schools.
Yeah. So you think this kind of skills we should learn, like integrate the social aspect when we plan cities?
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes we focus too much on animals in the city than the people in the city. At least that's what I hear from my landscape colleagues. Yeah.
Interesting. And Moa, if you are in charge with all the cities around the world, and you are allowed to create one rule or add one thing, could be like something physical. So what will you create or add to our cities?
I think I would add a safe place for children where everybody can grow up and feel safe and happy.
How are you going to do that?
I knew that question would come.
Call placemaking.
Well, yeah, I mean, working with equality so much the past few years, I've learned that that's not the case. Not everybody have the same opportunities where they grow up, and so I think we need to focus more on those areas, and from our perspective and our urban planning responsibilities, we need to make the most effort to at least give them the best public space they could have.
Yeah. And this
what they really need is
yeah.
The best kind of school and safe homes, but we can do what we can with the public spaces.
Yeah. And this question is actually not on the paper, so I see how you are going to answer.
Are you going off script now?
Yes. This is a tricky one. So if you will get $1 million as a budget, how are you going to invest it? You need to invest it on projects within city. What are you going to do with your $1 million?
Oh, that's a good question. I would focus on more green social places in the city, and maybe remove all of the cars, those kind of things. The answer is simple. Yeah, it's more green and more social spaces.
Very interesting. So now I have the last two questions for you. And the first one is going to be you giving me and the listeners 3 takeaway messages about how can we plan and design and develop future cities.
One thing would be then to get to know the human nature more in public spaces where you're planning and designing. Try to use different exercises to really understand what do the people want, and try to get out of your own head and try to lay your own ambitions aside. And that leads me maybe into another part of this, to stop using design as the main principle. It needs to a public place needs to function better than it needs to be designed, I think. And secondly, more color and more art into the projects. That's what I always work with. I always try to have a colorful, if I can't have art into the project, which is mostly street art as well, I try to add a lot of color in the furniture or the green landscape.
So very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Moa. I'm very happy that we recorded this episode, and hopefully see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you for having me, Mustafa.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. You learned something new and also got inspired by the guest. Don't forget to share the episode on your social media and recommend it to people you think they are really interested in this topic. Thank you so much again for giving your valuable time to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.